There are some moments in life that don't arrive loudly. They don't knock on the door or announce themselves. They just appear quietly, almost accidentally. And when they do, they change the way you see everything that came before. For me, that moment came 18 years after she was gone, in a place I thought I had already searched 100 times, holding something I never expected to find. Her diary. I wasn't looking for it. That's the strange part. If you had asked me before that day, I would have told you there was nothing left to discover about her. 18 years is a long time. Long enough to accept things. Long enough to convince yourself that the past is settled, that whatever was left unsaid no longer matters. I had built a life around that belief. I had learned to live with memories instead of questions. That afternoon, I was cleaning out an old cabinet in the back room of the house. It was one of those things you put off for years because you already know what you'll find. Old papers, forgotten objects, pieces of a life that no longer exists. I wasn't in a hurry. I moved slowly, picking things up, dusting them off, deciding what to keep and what to throw away. And then, tucked behind a stack of old books, I saw something small, a worn, leather-bound notebook. At first, I didn't think much of it. It looked ordinary. But when I picked it up, something about it felt familiar. Not in a clear way, not like recognizing a face, but like remembering a feeling you haven't felt in years. I turned it over in my hands, brushed the dust off the cover. And then I saw it. Her handwriting. My heart didn't race. It didn't drop. It just paused, like everything inside me stopped for a second, trying to understand what I was holding. I hadn't seen her handwriting in almost 2 decades, and yet there it was, as clear as if she had written it yesterday. I sat down right there on the floor. For a long time I didn't open it. I just held it in my hands, staring at the cover, thinking about what it meant. Because I understood something immediately. Whatever was inside those pages, it wasn't just words. It was her thoughts, her feelings, the things she never said out loud. And that's when the hesitation began. There's a strange fear that comes with discovering something like that. You tell yourself you want to know the truth. You think you're ready for it. But when the truth is sitting right in front of you, within reach, you realize something else. Once you open that door, you can't close it again. You can't unread what you read. You can't go back to not knowing. I don't know how long I sat there before I finally opened it. Minutes, maybe longer. But eventually, curiosity, or maybe something deeper, took over. I opened the first page. The date at the top hit me before the words did. It was from a time I remembered clearly, a period of our life that I thought I understood completely. But as I began to read, I realized something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't understand it at all. Her words were honest in a way people rarely are out loud. There was no filter, no careful selection of what to say and what to hide. It was raw, real, and as I read, I began to see a version of her I had never truly seen before. She wrote about small things at first, daily moments, simple observations, the kind of thoughts people carry quietly without sharing. But beneath those small details, there was something else, something deeper, something I had missed entirely when we were living it. She wrote about loneliness, not the obvious kind, not the kind that comes from being physically alone. She wrote about the kind of loneliness that exists even when someone is right next to you. The kind that doesn't show itself in arguments or silence, but in the absence of being truly understood. I remember stopping there for a moment, staring at the page, trying to process what I had just read. Because in my memory, That time in our life didn't look like that. In my memory, everything was normal. We had our routines, our conversations, our shared life. I thought we were fine. But her words told a different story. As I kept reading, the weight of it began to settle in. She wrote about moments I barely remembered, but to her, they meant something. Small interactions, things I said or didn't say, times I was present physically but absent in every other way. And the hardest part wasn't what she wrote. It was realizing how unaware I had been. There's a kind of regret that comes from making a mistake. And then there's another kind that comes from not even knowing you were making one. That's the kind that stays with you. Page after page, I saw pieces of her life that I had never noticed. Her fears, her doubts, her hopes that she never expressed. She wrote about wanting to feel closer, wanting to be heard, wanting something she couldn't quite explain. And I kept asking myself the same question over and over again. How did I not see this? But that's the truth about life. People don't always show you everything they feel. They carry things quietly. They write them down instead of saying them out loud. And if you're not paying attention, if you're too caught up in your own thoughts, your own routines, your own version of reality, you miss it. You miss them. There was one entry I'll never forget. I've read it more times than I can count, and it still feels the same every time. She wrote about a night we spent together, a night I remembered as peaceful, simple, nothing special. But in her words, it was something else entirely. She wrote, "He was right there, but it felt like he was miles away. I don't know how to reach him anymore." I had to close the diary after that, not because I didn't want to read more, but because I couldn't. Not in that moment. It was too much, too real, too final. Because the hardest part of all of this wasn't what she felt. It was the fact that I could no longer respond to it. I couldn't go back and change anything. I couldn't sit across from her and say, "I didn't know. I'm sorry. Tell me again, and this time I'll listen." That opportunity was gone. 18 years too late. I eventually finished the diary. It took me days, not because it was long, but because I had to stop often. Some pages made me sit in silence for hours. Some made me remember things differently. And some just stayed with me in a way I can't fully explain. When I reached the last page, I didn't feel closure. That's what people expect, right? That finding something like that will give you answers, will help you understand everything clearly. But that's not how it works. It didn't give me closure. It gave me clarity. And sometimes, clarity is heavier than confusion. I learned something from those pages that I wish I had understood much earlier. Relationships are not built only on what is said. They are shaped by what is left unsaid, by what is felt but never expressed, by the small moments that seem insignificant at the time, but mean everything to the other person. I thought I knew her. I thought being there was enough. But being there physically is not the same as being present. If there's one thing I carry with me now, it's this. Pay attention. Not just to words, but to silence. Not just to actions, but to what lies beneath them. Because the people in your life are always telling you something, even when they're not speaking. And if you miss it, you might understand it one day, just much too late.